gathering here in Washington to talk about their UFO sightings, but this apparently is no crackpot convention. Former high-level government and military officials are among those sharing what they've seen in the skies.
Now, a group of scientists, former Air Force and FAA officials, is lending its voice to the argument that we are not alone. Dr. Stephen Greer heads up the Disclosure Project, a group that compiles information from people who say they've encountered extraterrestrial forms of life.
We can establish through this testimony that these objects of extraterrestrial origin have been tracked on radar going thousands of miles per hour, stopping and making right-hand turns.
Since 1993, Dr. Greer says he has videotaped testimony.
Together, Lawrence Rockefeller hosted the Clintons at his ranch. One of the old Rockefeller guys, and he wanted the truth out, but his brother David Rockefeller, Chase Manhattan Bank, doesn't. And Lawrence was the philosopher of the family. He went to Princeton with McDonald, old man McDonald of McDonnell Douglas Aerospace. And Lawrence really did want to get this fixed, but he got surrounded by people from the CIA that took all of his money and flushed it down the toilet. But when he was hosting the Clintons at his ranch, and he was going through all these materials that we had put together, Hillary Clinton stood up and said, "Stop. We don't want to hear any more. This is too dangerous." And that was the end of that. So by 1998, I had concluded that neither the Congress nor the President nor the United Nations, and I had met with the Boutros-Ghali family, the UN Secretary General, were going to stick their necks out on this. It was too hot to handle. Therefore, we did the Disclosure Project.
It was 1956. America stood at the pinnacle of its prestige, and the Rockefellers were the nation's first family, not only of wealth, but also of power. Each brother was said to be worth upwards of $100 million. But more important than their wealth, fortune argued, was the vast social empire which the brothers commanded. From their headquarters in Midtown Manhattan, their influence reached into every sphere.
Over the years, through the Rockefeller philanthropic enterprises, charities, support of science, their business enterprises, a web had developed which spread out and was interconnected with practically every center of power in our country and abroad as well. So this was the real strength and power of the family, going well beyond money alone.
John D. III continued to run the family philanthropies, but was emerging from his father's shadow through his work in population control and U.S.-Asia relations.
Members of the press, the American public, and people of the world. We are here today to disclose the truth about a subject that has been ridiculed and questioned, denied for at least 50 years. The men and women who are on this stage and the some 350 additional military intelligence witnesses to the so-called UFO matter and extraterrestrial intelligence can prove and will prove that we are not alone. In 1993, a group of military advisors to this project and I met out in the countryside in Virginia, and we decided that it was time for civilians, military, intelligence, and other people to come together to disclose the truth about the subject which is called UFOs. Since that time, I have personally briefed a sitting Director of Central Intelligence, James Woolsey, President Clinton's first CI director. I have personally briefed the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, the head of Intelligence Joint Staff, members of the Senate Intelligence Committee, many members of Congress, members of the European leadership, the Japanese cabinet, and others. And what I have found is that none of them are surprised that this is true.
This conference took place in Washington, and the cast of characters was almost strangely, well, conventional.
And these aren't guys they just picked up off the street. The panel includes former Governor of Arizona, Fife Symington. Also participating was a retired Air Force captain who says he and his passengers saw a huge flying disc. Also a retired Peruvian Air Force pilot who says he came within 300 feet of a circular UFO flying at 63,000 feet. And then there was a retired U.S. Air Force security officer who, while stationed in England, was summoned to a downed aircraft in a forest.
UFOs. Mexican Air Force pilots capturing on videotape what are said to be 11, count them, 11 UFOs. Unidentified flying objects. They are officially that. Bright objects, some sharp points of light moving quickly across the sky. The tape called historic by some. Members of the Mexican Defense Department saying it's the first time UFOs have had the backing of any country's armed forces. Now, a group of activists calling on the United States government to end what it says is an embargo on the truth about extraterrestrial life. What is that thing on your screen? With us now from Washington is Stephen Bassett, founder and executive director of the Extraterrestrial Phenomena Political Action Committee. Last time.
And telling it it's wrong on an issue of enormous importance when it says otherwise. One of the people that's influenced me the most since I entered the field in '96 is our speaker. Because of his intensity, because of his intelligence, because of his indomitable will, his absolute perseverance, this is what you have to be a change agent. I only aspire to this level. It's critical in times like these, and they don't come along very often, that change agents have got to have the support of the public. And in the modern world, with all the tools we have, it's never been easier to do that. One way you support is to come and listen. I really appreciate that you have. And so, if you would, a very loud round of applause to a very powerful man, Dr. Stephen Greer.
And the Press Club has been extremely helpful because they have opened their facilities to this issue. I'm a member now. That doesn't really matter. And a number of major press conferences have been held here, and I really do appreciate this. This Press Club does truly represent, I think, the fundamental essence of journalism.
What have Herbert Hoover, Art Linkletter, Jack London, and Richard Nixon all had in common? Well, they've all been members of the exclusive all-male Bohemian Club.
Together, Lawrence Rockefeller hosted the Clintons at his ranch.
And the press club has been extremely helpful because they have opened their facilities to this issue. I'm a member now. That doesn't really matter.
It's not an owl.
That voice is speaking Sumerian, the oldest language in human history. You can go into any Sumerian exhibit and see etchings and sculptures of men in spacesuits and oxygen masks. Rockets that look like Apollo.